Thanks, Barbara. Okay. So the first question that begs is this. How alive do you feel in your life? Thank you, sweetie. Right? How alive do you feel in your life? This song, this show itself is a journey about going through life and going through the motions of life and coming up short. Going through the motions of life, studying, let's just use ourselves, for example. Studying this science, really getting in there and going, okay, I get it. I am God. I get it. I get that I am the creative essence of my life, and then coming up short. How many of you have had that happen? Well, I'm teaching a practitioner class right now that is very challenging for them because they're being honest. They're really saying, sometimes it feels like this stuff doesn't work. Sometimes it feels like I know all of this, but it's not producing in my life. I understand prosperity. I believe that it is done unto me as I say. And yet it's not showing up. And it's very interesting because Ernest Holmes said that you can believe until the cows come home. He didn't say that, I said that, but he said something like that. You can believe all you want, but until you know, your belief will be inactive. So I know you all believe it or you wouldn't be sitting here. I know you believe that this thing that we call new thought, science of mind, however you want to call it, that it works. I know you believe it works, but do you know it works? Do you know it as much as you know that you're alive? And in fact, do you know you're alive? I mean, when you wake up every day, do you wake up with a spring in your step? When you wake up every day, do you wake up dying to do what your day is about? Or do you sometimes wake up and go, oy? And I'm not judging, because I have some of those days too, where I wake up and I turn into Tevye. Really. And I'm like, oh my gosh, ugh, look what's before me. I'm teaching practitioners tonight. Oy. I know a lot of them are here, that's why I'm saying that. It's actually one of my favorite 3 hours of the week, sometimes 4. But sometimes, we really get into it. But I do wake up on some of those days and I have those feelings. So this year, I love that I got to start the year with the first week and saying, all right, we're going to step it up. And then I got to enforce it in the second week. And then I got to go to the Bahamas and just spend the next 2 weeks laying around a beach and doing some things that I was surprised I was doing and really getting a chance to think about all of this. I also got to read all of the term papers of my students from the practitioner class. And they were all asked to write a term paper on the first term, which was called How Life Got to Be This Way. So I'm going to turn that right at you and say to you, do you know how your life got to be the way it is? Do you know? Do you know why you are where you are? Do you know how you are where you are? And are you aware that your life got to be the way it is solely because your mind agreed to it? In every area, in your relationships, in your finances, in your creativity, your creative expression, and in your health. Do you know that? Now, whenever it was we went to the Bahamas, I was in the office having a grand old day on that Saturday, and we were taking the midnight flight at midnight. Well, of course, the midnight flight at midnight. And around 3 p.m, I was hit with some kind of virus. Now, I never get sick. I rarely get sick, if ever. And I get cancer, but I never get sick. So, and that was 6 years ago, so 7 years ago. 7 years ago, excellent. So I get this virus, and I was like, oh, that's funny. That's interesting. That was at 3 o'clock. By 5 o'clock, it wasn't so interesting. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like, and I'm spinning, the room is spinning. So I go home and I say to Kevin, I'm gonna take a nap. And I laid down and the chills came and my head is spinning and I'm really sick. And Kevin's like, we're leaving for the airport. You good? I was like, yeah, I'm good. So I got up, I threw things all over me, threw myself in the car and just was shaking. And I thought, wow, what a way to go. We're going first class. At least if I die, I'll be surrounded by a lot of rich people. It'll be good. So I get to the airport. I get into first class. I'm sitting in my seat. I'm literally so chilled and so nauseous. I'd taken some Imodium, so I'd slowed down a bit, if you receive my meaning. And wasn't that a good way of saying that? Yeah. So, and I've got the blanket over me, and it's first class. So Kevin's having champagne, and the lobster's coming, and they're serving all these great foods, and Kevin's like turning me going, do you want some champagne? I'm like, and then this thing happened, and this rush came like from my feet up to my middle of my body, from my head to the bottom of my body, and there was like this explosion of light, and I passed out. Literally passed out. I don't remember takeoff. Meanwhile, they're all having a great grand old time, and I'm passed out. So they're sitting there next to this passed out body, but no one noticed. So I wake up, I look around, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay. Now I'm still really sick, so I go to the bathroom, I come back. I'm still feeling fine. So now we finish there, we go to Miami. Now we've got to go to another plane. We go to the second plane, and all this, everybody's gone through first class at one point, right? So all this great food and wine and all this great stuff, nap. I get there, I'm asleep the entire ride. We get to St. Thomas, and Kevin's like, it's now a half-hour ferry ride to the island. I was like, Jesus, Mary and Jude. So I've got all of my stuff, and we get over to the island. Now, I will tell you that the second half of the trip, I spent asking myself, what had I done to create this? I didn't blame myself. There's a big difference between blaming myself for creating it. That's an energy that goes nowhere. But the question, what have I done to create this? And so I get there, and it's a gorgeous, oh my God, St. John was just spectacular. And we get there, the hotel's great, and I go to sleep, and all of us slept like 12 hours. So I woke up the next morning feeling pretty good. And I woke up and I thought, okay, I'm going to know that this week unfolds perfectly. And I will know what that was all about. I'm going to get to that in a moment. So then we got to spend the whole week. Now, before I go into my snorkeling story, I want to remind you that the month of January is about understanding the science of mind, understanding this thing that you say you're a part of. And it's about those first 4 chapters, the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. And I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version because I'm assuming you all know all of this. You know it. I even think I would go so far as to saying, you probably believe it. But do you really know it? Do you know it inside and out of your body? So the first thing is the thing it works, the thing itself. The thing itself is nothing but God. And I'm going to use the word God because I know it's a bit of a hotbed when you say the word God. Most people are thinking of Sister Mary Ignatius, who smacked you over the head with a ruler or something like that. But I'm going to use the word God. All it means is universal mind. Ernest Holmes called it the thing itself just to get away from all those ideas. So this energy, this divine energy, this universal mind, this creative substance, that's the thing itself. But the most important part, and the part that we are on the journey of, it's what you are. It's not the thing itself out there. It's Alex Robert Holmes. It is who and what. Everything that he is the thing itself. There's the thing itself, Suzanne Benoit. There's the thing itself, Jack. There's the thing itself, Nadine. There's the thing itself, Donia. All of us. That's the thing itself. So we have to get away from thinking there's this thing called God, this energy that, no, it's who I am. So that's number 1. That's the thing itself. Number 2 is the way it works. Well, first of all, never forget you are it. Because we try to work this thing. You ever try to work religious science? How many of you have tried to work religious science? Yeah. The problem is we're working something that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as religious science. It's just a bunch of words in a book, and it's just a philosophy that everybody is trying to learn. But the truth is, when he talks about the way it works, you are what works. The way it works is you. You are working it because you're using your mind. Jesus said it best, it is done unto you as you believe. That's pretty much our entire teaching. And then Ernest Holmes said, we take good wherever we find it, making it our own. That good works for us by working through us. So the thing itself is what you are, and it is the good and the energetic genius of the universe, and it's yours to live. So that's the first two, okay? Now, that's the first three. And then the last, what it does. What it does. Here's one of the most amazing things. We're thinking about what it does as though what this creative essence is doing is creating things out here. It's creating my job. How many of you have created parking spaces with this science? Yeah, everybody does that really well, and they're so excited. Especially when we were at NoHo, although tonight would have been a good one to manifest some parking spaces, right? So we all think we can manifest, this is what it does. Here we go. This is how I'm creating. That's not it. Because what it really does, I want you to take a deep breath. Now I want you to close your eyes. Now I want you to come with me to St. John, and you're sitting on the beach. And the weather is magnificent. And it is this blue, magnificent sky. And the water, the sea, is all blue and green and so transparent you can see everything. But when you look out, you see this magnificent line where the sea meets the sky. Do you see that line? Take another deep breath. Open your eyes. So that line where the sea meets the sky, that's what it does. It shows us, it lives in us, it speaks through us, it speaks to us. There is this intuitive knowing inside each and every one of us. And for many of us, we only find it when we go places and find it. But it's right here. You just drop in. And that line, we talk about stepping it up. Do you know for years people thought that line was the edge of the earth? Remember? Anybody as old as me? Remember when the edge of the earth was when if you went over it, you fell off the earth. People believed that, really believed that. Well, I think we still believe that in many ways. But what I know is that if you go out there and you hit that line and you're willing to daringly jump through it, step through that line, you are going to step it up. You're going to stop thinking you're going to fall off the edge of the earth. You are actually going to step it up, and you are going to step into the truth of who you are. And that's what this teaching does. It shows you that. And then the last one, which is how to use it. And here's where most people find the challenge. How to use it. How to use this science. So, now I get to my snorkeling story. So, as most of you know, how many of you know about my snorkeling stories? Yeah. Okay. Oh, a lot of you don't. Interesting. So I'm not going to tell you the 12 times I have tried to snorkel and have failed, but I will tell you the first one when I was in St. Bart, and before I knew that snorkeling was anything other than this fabulous idea that everybody says is magnificent. It's this wonderful thing, snorkeling, fabulous. Just put on the stuff and jump in the water. You're going to have an amazing time. So I'm in St. Bart, and everybody's getting dressed, and they're putting on their feet, and they're putting on their helmets, masks, whatever they're called, and that thing that keeps you from dying, supposedly. and I put it all on, and I jump into the water, and I start looking for fish, and I start swimming, and all I hear is, what I'm waiting for, Luke, I am your father. And it starts to really make me unnerved. And I look up, and there are the people that I went with, all swimming way faster than me, away from me, because they're not having the anxiety attack that is accruing. And they're going, and I look back, and there's the ship, and I'm kind of stuck between two things. Do I keep going to the deep, where I'm about to drown and die, a terrible death? Or do I turn around and swim back to the boat, which already seems exhausting to me? And I lose it. I lose it. The mask flies off, the feet, I finally get them, I'm sinking and taking the shoes, I'm throwing them everywhere, and I lose all of the equipment. It just all goes. Sinks to the bottom of wherever St. Bart is, and just sinks down there. And I paddle my way back to the boat, and the guy that ran the boat, I think he was in shock. He's just like, what did you do? You threw everything off. You can swim. I was like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I got back on the boat. That was my first experience of snorkeling. So now, for some reason, you would think I would know snorkeling was maybe not my thing. Nah. So then I'm the minister for the Holland America Cruise Line. And we're in the Caribbean the first time. And we're all going snorkeling. So I thought, you know what? That was a long time ago. That was like before I became a practitioner, before I knew that I was God, before I knew so much about myself. Clearly, I can snorkel. Everybody seems to have a fabulous time doing it. So I think, I'm going to snorkel. So Kevin and I get in our snorkeling gear, and I don't think I'd told him so much about what happened in St. Bart, because why would I tell that about myself? So I'm going to get in the water, and I'm going to get in the water, and I feel my arm holding onto the pole behind me. And Kevin's like, come on. I'm like, you go. I'm going to be a minute. I just need a minute. I need a minute. I'm holding on, and I'm going down one lower, and I'm like, I should check out this mask. And as soon as I hear, nope, can't go, can't do it. Before we lose another snorkeling outfit, I'm getting back on the boat. So I didn't do it. That was it. 2 days later, we're going snorkeling again on this cruise. And this is a private snorkel this time. And I was like, I just know it was like 3 days later we were going to go again. And I'm like, this isn't happening. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do the peer pressure thing. Don't think you can peer pressure me into this. I'm not a sissy. Well, I am, but I'm not a sissy just because I can't snorkel. So I get a call on the day we're supposed to go snorkeling from the captain of the ship, asking me to come to the captain of the ship's chambers, whatever that's called. And he says to me, when we hit the island, which is where everybody was going to go on the beach and then do some snorkeling, he said, we need you to help us because a woman has died snorkeling. And when we get there, we'd like you, if you wouldn't mind not snorkeling, to counsel the young guys that had to pull her out because they're really freaked out about it. I was like, no problem whatsoever. I can forego the snorkeling and work with these people. So I'm working with these people, and I find out she was 96 years old, I think, that they told her not to snorkel, that she had really bad blood pressure. It wasn't safe for her to snorkel. And she said, I paid for this trip. Give me the waiver. I'm signing it away. I'm going snorkeling. And then she snorkeled, and she basically just had cardiac arrest while she was snorkeling. And so I'm telling these guys that I'm counseling, I'm like, let me just explain to you that this woman was 96 years old, let's say, 96 years old, and the last thing she saw was one of the most gorgeous things in the universe to see. And I'm sure she felt very one with it all. And she knew what she was doing. She wanted to do it. She took her life into her own hands and said, I'm living this. And that was her transition into what is most definitely a magnificent life continuing. And this is how I talked to these guys, and they were like, wow, you're right. And it was a good day. It was a really good day. I spent the whole day with them individually. So a few days later, when we're going snorkeling again, I turned to Kevin and I went, I am not going snorkeling. People die. People can die snorkeling. And it's just not happening. So I didn't. I went and I just lounged around and watched them all snorkel. I was fine with that. But I did it again like 5 more times. Every time we went to the Caribbean, I got dressed, got in the water, and had an anxiety attack. To the point where poor Kevin, every time we went snorkeling, he was like, oh, here we go. I'm gonna spend the first 10 minutes fishing him out. Then I'll go snorkel. So that was my life up until St. John, just now. So we get on this. First of all, no one told me we were going snorkeling in St. John until I felt better. And then they were like, so we're spending the whole day on the water. We're leaving at 8 in the morning. We're there all day. And we're going to, 4 snorkeling spots or 3 snorkeling spots. And he says snorkeling. It barely gets out of his mouth and my blood pressure's risen. And I'm like, oh, we're going snorkeling. Okay. I said, well, I won't go. I will choose not to go. I cannot come back to church and give another dramatic snorkeling story about how I was a crazy person in the water in front of everybody. So we get on the boat, and it's a beautiful day, and the snorkeling equipment comes out, and between the time we left the dock and the time we got to the first snorkeling spot, I did some work. I did some mental work, and I asked myself, so why were you sick coming here? What happened? And I was very clear that I had geared myself up to leaving with so much work and so much stuff that I had to get done that my body just said, I'm going to release it all. And it did. And I felt great after it released it all. I was like, good, I'm good with that answer. I'm great with that answer. And I said, so what's this thing with snorkeling? James, what is this thing with snorkeling? You know you want to do it. You know you're going to try again. So what's the deal? And all of a sudden I was like, there is no deal. Just do it. Just do it. And you know how that you could play that game with yourself? Half of me's going, yeah, but you know what's going to happen? You're gonna freak out. And I just kept hearing, just do it. You have just spent, and I will tell you, I have just spent the last year, the last 2 years maybe, since we really leaped into the I am God, understanding this science on a much different level, understanding myself on a much different level, understanding the truth of what the thing itself is, that it is me, and that the only way to use it is to be it. And if I'm going to be it, then I should be able to be it in a snorkeling outfit, in the ocean, at the sea, whatever it was, the Mediterranean, and whatever. It was a body of water and it was very deep. I said, and if you're going to stand on stage week after week after week and tell everybody that there is a oneness to life, then what? There's a oneness to life, but the water seems to be out of bounds for me. I was like, no, it's not going to happen. So I turned to the guy who was the, Brent, I think his name was. He was running the ship. So I went up to him and I said, Brent, every time I go snorkeling, I have anxiety attacks. Could you give me like a pointer on how not to have an anxiety attack? He turned to me and he went, don't. I was like, what are you, Bob Newhart? And he was like, just don't. He said, just decide not to have an anxiety attack. Why didn't I think of that? Make a decision. Oh my God, make a decision. Don't have an anxiety attack. So I put on the mask. I put on the fins? Flippers. He gave me a little thing that everybody had to wear. He said, even if you're Michael Phelps, you have to wear this. And I literally walked down the steps into the water, flipped over, and instantly saw this gigantic, looked like a man-eating fish. My first thought was, oh, I'm not going to die snorkeling. I'm going to get eaten. Perfect. But I heard but I also saw this fish who seemed to look at me very strangely, just kind of went by like, hello. And then I saw another fish, and then another fish, and then I just kept swimming. And I was snorkeling, and I was loving it. And I did not have anxiety, and the water was beautiful, and the fish were beautiful, and everything was beautiful. I only came up to make sure that they all, and him and Marcy and Al, they're all just looking at me like, wow, you're snorkeling. And Kevin even said to me, he got in the water, he goes, do you want me to stay with you? I went, absolutely not. You go snorkel your own way. And so I just went snorkeling for like an hour. And I am like in the deep end, and at one point I'm like really the deep end. It's the sea. So I'm really far away from the ship. It's a boat. It's a sailboat. And I look back and I'm like, that's very far away. And this is very, very deep. And I don't give it. I don't care. And I just stayed and just kept swimming. And I had the most magnificent time. And I don't know if you really can cry underwater, but I think I was crying. I was because my eyes got all salty. And I was just like, I'm all teared up and I'm like, oh my God, I really am one with everything now. Everything. Until I got off and somebody said, now you should try scubaing. And I went, absolutely not. Which now, of course, I'm probably gonna have to try it. Because here's the thing, I don't believe there should be anything that you can't do. There may be some things you decide not to do, but it should never be because you think you can't do it. You must be at choice. And that's what this whole teaching is about, that we have choice. You have a choice to be wealthy or poor or somewhere in the middle and just struggle your whole life. You have a choice to be happy or sad. You have a choice to be, as Ernest Holmes says, that one person who is for something and against nothing. And in today's political climate, we must listen to Ernest Holmes' voice when he says, be for something and against nothing. Because the more we spend our valuable mental energy being against whatever is going on in this country, the more we are a part of that. It is up to us to be for something. So what are we for? We're for love. Tomorrow starts 62 days of the season of nonviolence, right? Celebrating Martin Luther King, Gandhi, celebrating all the peace in the world. Let's be for that and not against this. Same thing with snorkeling. If I spent my whole life afraid of this, and I'll give myself real credit for one thing, I kept trying. And here's the thing, that's what this teaching teaches us. You must be willing to keep trying until you understand it. Because once you understand it, really understand it, divinely understand it, you will have the key to unlocking it. Now you're at choice. Now you are not locked into the choices that you think your life have brought you to. So I have one last thing. Back to my practitioner class. First of all, every single one of you should try to find your way into a class this year, because what happens in the classroom is pretty astounding. It's what gets me here every Sunday. What happens Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is what propels me into Sunday and where I keep growing, where I keep evolving. So in the practitioner class, it's very important to be able to question. It's very important to be able to say, I don't understand this. I don't understand why my life's not better. I don't understand why I'm not working all the time as an actor. I don't understand why I'm still having struggles with money. I don't understand why I still can't find that perfect soulmate for me. I don't understand. And if this teaching is anything, it's something that gives me the answers to why this is happening. But you got to do the work. You got to get in there and find out, right back to the top of this talk, why life is the way it is. And it's the way it is because in your mind you have some belief that has put it there. So be skeptical. Be questioning. Say that this science doesn't work. Say that whatever I'm saying is not making sense to you, but be a part of it. Be actively engaged in making this stuff work because it does. Here's the quote. Enthusiastic skepticism is not the enemy of boundless optimism. It is optimism's perfect partner. It unlocks the potential in every idea, and we can create the future that is in our dreams. That is Astro Teller, who's a scientist, author, intelligent technology inventor, and the head of Google X Moonshot. So, enthusiastic skepticism. If you're sitting here buying this hook, line, and sinker, this whole teaching, and your life isn't changing, you haven't bought a thing. In fact, you've probably bought a lemon. It's true. If you sit here and you come here every Sunday and you listen, and you really believe, and you get it, and you go, yeah, that's me, and your life isn't changing, then you're not really knowing it. And we need to be people that know it. Know it so much that our lives change. Know it so much that when our lives change, someone's going to point to you and say, I want what she's having because she's having a life that I deserve. She's really joyful and happy and successful. People love her. She loves people. I want that. Be willing to look and see what do you want, and then be willing to turn the mirror right back on yourself and say, why don't I have this? It's okay to say, why don't I have this? It is okay to say, why is my life not working? It's okay, as long as you don't beat yourself up. I never blamed myself for not being able to snorkel. I had a lot of fun with the fact that I couldn't snorkel. Gave me a lot of good talks. But there was a part of me that was not going to ever give up until I figured out, until I unlocked the key. Why? It's not enough to say I can't. We have to be willing to say, why can't I? And the answer has to be, you can. Do whatever you decide to do. And why? Because of the thing itself. Because you know who you are. And I know who you are. And I know who I am. And when we know who we are, everything transforms. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.